Visita haridantam spelalita dotau, rucha poros meke, me mustolet meleke, visita haridantam spelalita dotau, springaruto creepau, mustolet me sleepau. Let's get it on. Visita haridantam spelalita dotau, pusha poros meke, me mustolet meleke. Sita haledantam spelalita total, bring a ruta creeper, and also let me sleep out. Howdy, everybody. So being a Jedi is basically like being a new age, theosophical bullshit artist. Oh, only a Sith deals in absolutes, eh? So I guess there's no such thing as a law. No wonder the feds absolutely adore Star Wars. It's also fascinating how Star Wars is one of the only non-racist anthroposophical works. What I mean when I say this is most anthroposophy has tier lists of races that are hard locked. Funny enough, the Eloys and the Morlocks are actually the opposite of what they appear, but that's more in the mold of a Brave New World or Metropolis. Most fantasy racial science has a dominant race and an inferior race, like Imperials and Dark Elves versus Arconians and Khajiit, or Hyperboreans versus Darfari, a reference to Darfur in Central Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa, you know. Most of Howard's works were based on abridged versions of human races. Also fascinating to learn that he blew his own head off after learning his mother passed away. But that little Freudian piece of history is not relevant. Star Wars has all these different races. Some more stereotypical than others, but a vast majority can become Jedi. It's a great allegory for a sort of League of Nations entity bursting from the chest of Empire. The reality is, if you're too intelligent and or too outspoken, to not upset the apple cart in far left or far right circles, Kiwi Farms for instance, you will be removed. It would prevent the people using the group to brainwash people from doing it as easily. They'd never in a million years malign some dumbass who's easily swayed to their point of view. I've seen it. But they will 100% lie, manipulate that person, and terrorize that person until they're herded like a good sheep into whatever field, be they full of predators or not, that the groomers want them to be. I've seen this, for instance, with a guy named Dude Weed / Dude Vaccine / Dude Rabbit / Dude Snakes. He has been groomed for several years. And basically his opinion is it is transferred from whatever's on BitChute to whatever's in the Kiwi Farms chat. So, despite never talking about it before, he's become a rabid Zionist recently, which is very funny because he's ethnically Jewish, but his family converted to Christianity and stuff like that. Never used to talk about it. But Kiwi Farms has become like a cesspool where people get infected with this nasty bacteria. It's inoculated in them, and then they start becoming, you know, a point for it to spread to other bodies. You know, outside of Kiwi Farms, it is essentially a gigantic cancer node for Zionism at the point. And yeah, I mean, it's crazy because you say you're free speech, you say that one of the main things you're against is debanking, and yet the most anti-free speech guys, the biggest debankers, the banks themselves, you are now sucking up to because you got a little scratch in your pocket. We're going to get into Null. I'm sick of holding it in my chest, you know. I was just, I'm going to pray on it. I'm going to be a good Christian. That's not what the saints would do. I'm still going to pray about Null, but I'm going to go off on Null a little bit, so stay tuned for that. And that's exactly where all these two online dumbasses keep coming from. Null. If you do not like our country, leave. You want to call my nation a septic tank? when your creation is just that. Get the hell out, you pathetic little worm. Go back to the EU nanny state and enjoy your $100,000 expat tax deduction, you scumbag parasite. You hate my country, huh? You seem pretty happy when we're waging war on other countries, you freak. The people your donors hate. Now that your pay pigs didn't get what you want to pull the long knives out? Fine. Dig your hole deeper, brother. In fact, you should move to Tel Aviv now! The sooner people like you leave, the quicker we'll fix our problems. But seriously, our country's flaws are the reason you are in business. Stop being so damn ungrateful. There's more and more evidence as time goes on that he is still a homosexual. That's not me saying that. It's based on the things that he watches and the people he hangs around. Hating Muslims would make perfect sense, since they would throw him off the roof if it's true. And he certainly has the history of it. Who knows? His male role models were drag queens at the pride parades his mom took him to, and the fibromyalgic, spoony drug addict who crashed on his mom's couch. He says his military grandfather was a role model, but it doesn't seem like it's affected him much. And that man had his life ruined by Josh. He was literally a few months from retirement. The most stereotypical tragedy ever, and Vordrak ran an effective enough campaign against him using the things he had done to get Josh's grandfather dishonorably discharged. There's also the Australian guy who Liz Fong Jones took for 6 figures for being associated with Josh. I doubt Josh has lifted a finger to help that guy because he's an ungrateful parasite and a horrible liability with a horrible legacy in general. I'm not exaggerating when I say he copies everyone instead of coming up with his own ideas and plans. He copied me word for word, verbatim out of chat in 2021 and 2022. He's been copying H3H3 recently. He's been copying Kino Casino. He's been copying H3H3 down to the retarded abort stream button he plans on using next Friday. He copies people on his forum. He copies people on Twitter. For all his content, he copies his code from GitHub and from spying on transgender Rust programmers. He started copying ideas from ChatGPT in 2023, and he copies mainstream media propaganda regarding Israel, when I swear to God on my immortal soul on everything that he used to be just as critical as Israel as any honest person still is. And when they're done using him, they're going to fish that up to kick him out or hurt him bad. He copies everything. It's not original at all. He's probably trying to be the next Trisha Paytas. He looks the part. He's got the right height and everything. He can generate 10K views in a day and 25K in a month, so he's an established B-list internet micro-celebrity. But he's still a dumb, smug, childish, infantile little man who's already burned so many beautiful bridges. It's literally indistinguishable from Nick Fuentes' nasally voice, constant complaining, wrong all the time. I swear, being a Zionist shill will be looked back like cutting your dick and balls off a decade from now. And you're not gonna recover from it just the same way. Kiwi Farms has become a backseat driver, an accessory to the Shardy and the Internet Archive. Josh simps for the Israeli Internet Archive because that's the only port he's welcome anymore. And it's not because he's so based and red-pilled, it's because he's a consistently petty, demanding person. He has an extremely poor memory. A greatest hits of his previous statements are paraphrased as, he wants to kill black people, he wants to see more dead U.S. soldiers dying as fast as possible, he hates cops because they gave him a ticket once, he threatened to torture and rape a girl, he admitted to watching child porn, and on top of all of that, the people around him get hurt by the enemies he made because he thought he was choosing easy victims when he was targeting severely mentally ill people on the verge of suicide, although his website has never actually contributed to somebody committing suicide, from Terry Berry to Bew, etc., etc. No, that wasn't the Kiwi Farm's fault. The reason why people say it has is because they deliberately choose targets on the verge of self-destruction because they're easy pickings. The second they find out you're capable of fending off their pokes and prods, they leave you alone. Just ask me. but Null's parasitic nature is infuriating. There are people that spend dozens of hours of their valuable time a week to catalog and archive things, running the gambit from victims with severe mental illness to full-blown animal abusers, and Null takes credit for their work because he hosts the website. Well, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The false advertising that Kiwi Farms is the only place where you can go to openly speak is flat on its face wrong. You can't speak freely there. You used to be able to, but Null takes bribes now and curates his website to be pro-Israel. It's an extension of the mainstream media. Most of what he talks about these days is politics, and it's not funny. The funny parts of his website are being melted down because he's doing this. It's competition to Kiwi Farms as a political entity. And he's allowing it to happen because he gets paid for it. I love how they're blaming Reddit for their own behavior too. Steal from the shardy, blame Reddit. I'll be looking forward to watching Sam Hyde push the boulder Null decided to drop in the last couple of years. It's gonna be fun. You know, suffering, setbacks, it's all part of the things that make you strong. Null has decided to shirk that responsibility. I still can't believe taking in all the Zionists that ruined 4chan was worse, somehow, than merging Wizard Chan. Oh, and the tier list has been restructured. My muse became visible again, and I've got my inspiration back involving this project. I've finalized it with 256 people, and will need to spend quite a few hours taking notes on users and making a final draft of my notes, which will condense dozens of notepad sheets into a handful of spiral notebook pages. I've set my deadline as 2 weeks from now exactly. Or sooner. Stay tuned. The guy with Yahweh tattooed on his neck that just crucified that Protestant pastor out in Arizona 100% got radicalized in prison. U.S. gangs have a lot of Zionist influence, funding from the top, symbology that shot through the rhetoric and symbols. And oftentimes, the King James Bible is the only thing they have to read in there, especially in the more maximum security areas. I have the video of him giving an interview after the murder on my Facebook of the same name. Check it out. I feel so bad for Sam Hyde, man. Absolute bullshit he has to go through. 90% chance that some Zionist kike psychopath freak did that shit. Those are the only people who can be so petty and destroy shit people work so hard on so quickly. Perfect timing, too, given how cucked they just were. That's the world the generations selling out have crafted for us. One where the police can do these sorts of things with impunity, while sex trafficking, drug trafficking, animal abuse is untouched for the most part. Apparently it's one Matthew Wallerman. Yep, Jewish. Anything that ends in man is Jewish. Not son, but man. Which is funny, given the infantile nature of Zionists. Consistent infantile natures of Zionists. Even this Christian Zionist with Yahweh tattooed across the neck, or spelling, Hebrew letters in blood. He said, God is my daddy. Because he's infantilized, because Zionists infantilize people. Oh, you've been a good boy. You deserve a little treaty treat. And it's a fucking child tied up. That's the reality. And hey, if you want to look more into it, go from research RT from Torah to trauma. 14 days ago, 2 weeks ago, the Knesset was brought to the attention of a massive child sex trafficking operation, satanic abuse operation, taken place by religious Jews, keeping up with the minutiae of Judaism to a T, but they worship these strange gods that the ancient Canaanites would worship, and they rape children on the regular. And it's comprised of police officers, and it's comprised of Knesset members, and it's comprised of preachers and teachers. Just normal people who you'd never expect, but people who likely have joined these positions of power so that they can be around people with power. Having power, being around other people, exercising that power to get what they want, and there's sick sexual proclivities. God only knows what Null's actually after, because a good man wouldn't have to sell out the way that he did. No man would climb up to the very top of the mountain just to sell out to a bunch of pedophiles and rapists. Literally, people fighting with each other about the right to rape Palestinians. Jeffrey Epstein, child sex trafficking ring. Everybody knows about it. And it's like, this is one of like 3 ones that we've identified in recent years. And there's no reason why Null would ever sell out to that for a few bucks. He wants something out of that. He wants something out of that. And if I have to be like the people that trolled Cyrax, standing outside of his house with a sign saying this man watched child porn, I'll do that. I'll do that if it comes to that. I'll do something smart. Trust me. I know my law. I've been aware of both criminal and civil law since I was in high school. I know about this. He makes more and more capable enemies the farther down he goes down this route. And I'd call it off too, but no, that's going to be the future at this rate. No man can pretend to be a Christian and do these things. My age, no, I'm going to be stuck to you like stink on a monkey, man. A bunch of pro-Palestinian activists just sabotaged a bunch of military equipment being made in Belgium by Israeli weapons manufacturer, albeit that was supposed to go to Ukraine. Good. Heroes, the lot of them. I hope I see more and more of this in the coming years. I hope Israeli blood merchants feel the sting of God's wrath as the Holy Spirit works through his braver children. Cain ain't got nothing on Christ. Sometimes you can't just be a passive Christian. Sometimes you gotta go out there, you gotta risk yourself. And I invite anybody else to do that. Null is a sick little freak, and he absolutely must be held to the standards that he set. Hypocrite. Alright, y'all. Short episode. Don't get it twisted. I'm actually quite cheerful. I just had to get that off my chest, you know? It's weighing down on me, and I feel much better. And you know what comes back to bite me? Fine. Everything I said is 100% true. Why other would he sell out these demonic groups? He's not afraid. No, he wants something that they can offer. They're fans of AI. He's fan of AI. He watched child porn when he was younger. They direct a bunch of porn. They have human trafficking. They have sex trafficking rings, like the Epstein ring. Put 2 and 2 together. It makes perfect sense. He's going to be one of these sick freaks, and he should never be trusted around children. Ever. Exactly why he doesn't have a girl. That's exactly why he never gets laid. That's exactly why he probably hasn't gotten laid in years and years and years. Because women just straight up don't trust him. Why would they? He's a sick freak. And he's probably not ever going to have any children. Thank God. Because God only knows if he'd abuse them or not. If you can do this to your own people, if you can do this to your own country, you can destroy your own country, that's basically an extension of your family. You're not trustworthy. So that's that. That's my official stance on Null. I'm gonna stick to it. I don't care what happens. I don't care what consequences I face for that. Because this is important and it needs to be said. Alright, y'all. I'm gonna take off. Cheers.